It's 5 o'clock on Wednesday, January the 19th. The House Criminal Justice Subcommittee is now in session. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
There it goes. Representatives Beck, Curcio,
Here.
Farmer, Griffey, Hardaway, Howell, Lamberth, Moody, Russell, Sexton, Chairman Doggett.
Present.
Chairman Doggett, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Members, do we have any personal orders before we begin on this glorious evening? Representative Beck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to recognize my intern for this session, Alicia Subcommittee. Alicia, stand up. Make her welcome.
Any other members? Well, I will say, committee that we do, I have a new assistant this year who will be serving with us on this committee, Miss Emily Hamby. And so please welcome her. I know that we will challenge her from time to time, and we'll break her in well on this committee. It'll be very good for her. Sergeant of Arms, Mr. Tyler Muniz, do you have anything that you would like to add? Tradition, when we start the Criminal Justice Subcommittee, you normally have some words of wisdom for us.
Words of wisdom. I am a constituent of the 45th District, the greatest district in Tennessee, and you are being chaired by the greatest chairman.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, before we begin on the calendar, I just want to remind everyone of the committee and those that may be sitting here or watching from afar. Normally we go over the rules the first part of the session as we did last year, but one rule that we always have questions about is testimony. If you wish to testify on a piece of legislation before this committee, or if you're a member and bringing those in to testify, please be reminded that we need their information 24 hours in advance before the committee. As of right now, we're meeting at 5 p.m. on Wednesdays, but I foresee in the future that we will move that time to probably around 9 o'clock sometime in the next few weeks. So that deadline will change.
PM or AM?
Depends on how you are acting, if it's AM or PM. So we'll send you an email. Okay. So anything else before we begin? If not, the first item on our calendar, House Bill, well, excuse me, before I get to that, let me do a little housekeeping first. Let me go through and get some of these out of the way. Item number 2 on the calendar, House Bill 1546 by Vice Chair Weaver. Without objection, will be rolled to the special calendar. Item number 4. House Bill 673 by Vice Chairman Freeman will be rolled to the special calendar. Item number 5, House Bill 1565 by Vice Chairman Freeman will be rolled to the special calendar. Item number 6, House Bill 1308 by Representative Chisholm will be rolled to the special calendar. Item number 8, House Bill 601 by Representative Hodges will be rolled to the last calendar. And item number 11, House Bill 1321 by Representative Hardaway will be taken off notice. Which brings us back to item number 1, House Bill 1640 by Vice Chair Ogles. You have a motion and a second. You are recognized.
Thank you, Chairman and members of committee. House Bill 1640 prohibits probation for any person convicted of rape in the state of Tennessee. This is a small group right now. There's right at 41 people on this list that have been granted probation but I believe these crimes are especially egregious, and probation should not be eligible to anyone in the future that commits these kind of offenses. Thank you, Chairman and committee. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Any questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, any objection? Mr. Representative Beck.
Mr. Representative Beck, thank you very much. Why are we singling out rapists? Is there a reason? Do we not think they can be reformed? Tell me your thoughts behind this bill.
Recognize.
I think thank you, Representative, for that question. I think the fact that these actions are so egregious, and the fact that this is a problem that is rampant across our nation, across the state of Tennessee. I just read a statistic earlier today that said 1 in 4 females that enter university in the United States will be subject to sexual assault at some point in their education process. That's 1 in 4. So I hope that we will send a message in the state of Tennessee that these acts are not acceptable, and we don't like these people, and we're going to give them special attention, and there will be very severe consequences for these actions in this state.
Representative Beck.
Any statistics or any studies that show that rapists can't be reformed?
Thank you, Chairman. I think the recidivism rate on rape is especially high. I think we have professionals in the room. If we would like to maybe go out of session, or maybe I can supply those to you as well. I know part of that study I read today from a professor at Union University, and it was a self-reporting study of over 2,000 offenders. Over 45% of those that self-reported that were convicted of rape offended 10 or more times. So a large number of rapists in our universities are actually serial rapists, and I can supply you with that study. That was a very well done study that I think has great potential for us to study in the future.
Is that 10 or more times after being convicted or before being convicted?
Thank you, Chairman. Before being convicted.
Do we have any studies after being convicted?
Thank you, Chairman. My hope would be that once they're convicted, they never see the light of day, and they're never released back into the general population. I don't believe rapists should ever be paroled. I don't think there should be any sentence short enough where they ever leave that facility in their lifetime.
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Representative Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just from a female perspective, I'll be as generic as I can, but after Christmas, my daughter and I went to, and I'll let them remain unnamed, a large home good / arts and crafts store, nationwide known, and I was on the markdown Christmas aisle, and a man pulled his pants down and exposed himself. And just from that one, when we got ready to leave, and I won't tell you what, always another woman and I yelled at him, and he was chased out of the store. But then I started thinking, if he's bold enough to do that, and I'm fixing to walk out into a dark parking lot, or my daughter, I'm just going to tell you, it was unnerving. And as a female, if I can't imagine going through that, but just my personal opinion, thank you for this bill. And I am afraid our society is going to get worse. So thank you. I'll be voting yes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for those comments. And I would like to remind members of the committee and those who didn't take notice that in previous legislation, we authorize the use of deadly force if, in fact, you fear that that act will take place. So in this state, the act of rape is actually a grave crime that very well may cost you your life. So I'm sorry you had to experience that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Representative Griffey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sponsor, for bringing this. I support this bill. I signed on as a co-sponsor, so thank you for bringing it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else? Chairman Farmer? Withdraw.
Just real quick, members and folks in the audience, I want us to think about what rape is. I was just looking at the definition of rape, right? In the Tennessee Code Annotated 39-13-503, and just how serious it is, right? It's a Class B felony, and as I understand it, it's probably one of the only Class B felonies that we have that would be eligible for probation only, right? Other than just like a split confinement sentence. But for rape is unlawful sexual penetration of a victim by a defendant or of the defendant by a victim accompanied by any of the following circumstances. Force or coercion is used to accomplish the act. That means holding somebody down and coercing them, putting a gun to their head, and forcing them to have sex with you. The sexual penetration is accomplished without the consent of the victim, and the defendant knows or has reason to know at the time of penetration that the victim did not consent. That means somebody's asleep, maybe passed out, maybe by some medication, may have been drugged, asleep, and this person has had sex with them without their consent. And that sexual penetration is accompanied by fraud, and that the defendant knows or has reason to know that the victim is mentally defective, mentally incapacitated, or physically helpless. This is a serious crime. And I was surprised. I found out through practice, I guess it was about 3 or 4 years ago, that rape was eligible for a probation-only sentence, and it really surprised me. And I was surprised that the legislature hadn't taken action before now. And Representative Owens, I'm glad you've done this. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's good public policy. I think it sends a message to anybody who thinks about drugging someone, forcing them to enter into sexual penetration without their consent in any way, maybe someone that can't consent, or by fraud. I think it's just, I think it's a good bill, and I think it should have been done probably years ago. Absolutely should have been done years ago. So thank you for bringing this piece of legislation.
Thank you. Any other members wish to speak? Thank you. If none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're now voting on sending House Bill 1640 on the full criminal. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes prevail. You move on to full criminal. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of committee.
Next item number 3, House Bill 997 by Leader Love. Leader Lambeth, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, just a kind of a point of order on this. Have we heard from Representative Love? I was trying to buy him time. I noticed the status of this in the Senate. I didn't know if he wanted to go forward. There we go. My friend from Davidson County, I believe, has asked the chair to take this off notice.
Off notice. Any objection? Seeing none, House Bill 997 will be off notice. Next item on the calendar, item number 7, House Bill 1574 by Representative Stewart. Members, if they're without objection, I'm going to roll this to the hill of today's calendar. Roll House Bill 1574 to the hill. Brings up item number 9, House Bill 1449 by Chairman Curcio. You have a motion and a second. You're recognized. There is an amendment.
Yes, sir. There is an amendment coded 11482, which I wish to move.
You are recognized properly on the amendment.
Thank you very much. And members, this amendment does make the bill. So you may recall a couple of years ago, we passed a bill that revised our drug-free zone law in this state. And it was a good public policy change that the House and the Senate both voted for overwhelmingly. But when we changed that sentencing structure, there are 483 individuals. So this is an encapsulated population. It's never going to get any bigger. It's a defined bucket of people who were convicted under the old law. And we have been looking for a way for those folks who feel they may be eligible for resentencing to have a review process. So what this bill sets up is a process whereby the petitioner may petition the court, go back into court with a DA, with a judge present, and look at the facts of that case and see whether or not they would be eligible for resentencing. So this is not about blanket commutations. This is not about letting, folks out of jail who otherwise or out of prison who otherwise should be staying there. This is about examining whether or not they should be resentenced per the new law. Worked hard with law enforcement on this, continue those conversations. We made very clear in the amendment that the burden of proof is on the petitioner, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that explanation. Members, are there any questions for the sponsor? Any questions for the sponsor on the amendment? The question has been called on the amendment. Any objection? Seeing none, we're now voting on adding amendment number 11482 on the House Bill 1449. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes prevail. We adopt. We are now on House Bill 1449 as amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, sir. I renew my motion. The amendment made the bill.
Question has been called. Any objection? Seeing none, we're now voting on sending House Bill 1449 as amended on the full criminal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes prevail. If you wish to be recorded as a no, please see the clerk. Members, I believe that has brought us back to, I'm sorry, we do have another. Item number 10, House Bill 802 by Representative Griffey.
Can I get a second? Jerry. Second.
Okay. You are properly recognized. You do have an amendment there, Representative Griffey. Am I correct?
I do. It's amendment number 6266. If I could please get a motion and a second on my amendment.
Okay, you're recognized on the amendment.
Got to wake everybody up. Mr. Chairman, this Bill 802 with the amendment would make this bill the Amanda Mercer Law, which is, would make it the SAFE Act, which references the Stop Abuse for Everyone Act. What it would do for domestic violence victims, the investigating arresting officer would have to ask the domestic violence victim if they want GPS monitoring for the alleged perpetrator. And the officer would note that response on the investigation forms and the domestic violence form that's filled out. Following that, the statute would require the magistrate or judge to impose a condition of GPS monitoring unless the magistrate finds by clear and convincing evidence a reason not to require a GPS monitoring device. Mr. Chairman, this is in general sub in the Senate currently. I think I may have rolled this bill twice already from last year. So if I roll it again, it's going to be, my third roll will probably go to clerk's desk. I'll have to get it back out and everything. For purposes of expediency, and I've texted Senator Stevens on this bill, he's a Senate sponsor, if I could pass it through the committee with the committee's indulgence and approval, if Senator Stevens does not want to do it, I'll take it off notice in the full committee. And with that, I would ask for the committee's support to pass this. There's also a similar bill currently in full committee on GPS monitoring, and I'd like to get, I believe it's Representative Hakeem's bill, and sit down with him and see if where we can find common ground on both these bills and come up with the best bill on this issue.
Well, thank you for that, Representative Griffey. I will tell you this, that the posture that we're in on this bill, that if we do not take any action today, that it will go onto the special calendar, which will be at the end of the committee once we get to the end of the session.
Well, then maybe, if I may, Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
let's just not, if I could, just not take any action on it, and it will go to the last calendar, and I can pick it up then.
So you want to request to roll it to the special calendar is what it will be?
Correct.
The special
Yes,
calendar. I
correct.
misspoke there.
Yes.
It'll be on the special calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Please, Mr. Chairman and committee, thank you.
Leader Lamberth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I did want to just point of clarification from a policy standpoint, and that keeps that bill alive. It's available for discussion. I mean, I think this is a very important piece of legislation, and this entire topic really, I know Chairman Curcio and I have for years tried to try everything we can, and Representative Hardaway as well, to get our judicial commissioners to use GPS monitoring more often. I mean, it is a life-saving tool that they can use. So I just want to make sure that that does keep this conversation alive. Is that accurate, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any objections to Representative Griffey on the sponsor of the bill requesting it be moved to the special calendar? Seeing none, we will move this bill be rolled to special calendar. Brings us back to item number 7. House Bill 1574 by Representative Stewart. Representative Hardaway, I believe you want to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've communicated with Representative Stewart, and he says there's some confusion. He did not calendar this bill.
Yes, sir, Representative. It was rolled to the first calendar of 2022 from last year, one of our previous or end of session meetings that we had.
Okay. Then I would assume that he would be amenable to rolling it to next week if that's available.
Last calendar. Keep it alive.
Well, again, the only posture that we have there is it could roll to the special calendar, which would be taken up at the end of this session.
And if he took it off notice, what would the option be?
It would go to the special calendar.
Mr. Chairman, it's difficult to make that choice.
We've had many months to make that choice there, Representative.
Let's go with number 1, sir. No, let's go with number 2.
What was behind door number 2? Without objection, we'll roll this bill to House Bill 1574 to special calendar. And members, we have completed our first calendar of the 2022 session. I look forward to seeing everyone's smiling faces back next Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. I entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved. We are adjourned.